All right, so we're recording again, but um, but I don't know. I just think that um, we have to assert ourselves in a very visible way right now. Right now, it can't just be dancing and flapping the flag. I mean, the fan. And I don't have a problem with that. I love the fact that we are not
Yeah,
marching. I
I
love
think
that
I
we are
think
not marching.
we could do a lot of things. We need to have some fun, and they're getting a lot of fun out of that. But what we do need to be, because in my opinion, I still don't believe that the Democratic Party as a whole hear us. They're not making any
That
changes.
is
They're
correct.
not saying anything. And I'm afraid
Right.
in 20 whatever the next president election, it will be a Republican. It is not going to be a Democrat because
No.
the people I know would not just
No.
vote would not just vote blue just because. We're just not. Even in our local
Oh,
election, people are very disingenuous with the Black Caucus, and I'm talking about people, your everyday people. Now, look, your sororities, your boulets, they're gonna stick to the Democratic Party because that's what they know, and they don't want to ruffle any feathers. Yes,
yeah, that's
but
true.
the people that life is affecting, and I'm not saying that life isn't affecting those people either. They just know how to deal with it a little bit more, or maybe they just want to pretend it's not affecting them. But the people that is affect, like when you look at homeless, it is no way in America we should have this much homeless, and we
Right.
definitely shouldn't have had it under Biden. And the amount of money that they put into housing, into homeless, why haven't we put a dent in it? Why haven't we improved? Why
Yeah,
haven't
but
black?
I
Why
think
haven't more black people got homes?
I think if you solve the problem with black people, you solve a whole
I'm
lot
talking
of.
about white people too.
I know you are, but if I look at poverty in this country, poverty rates, um, black people are at around 17.6%, somewhere in there. White people, their poverty rate is around 8.1%. Not Hispanic. Hispanic's pretty high, but I'm just going to do black versus white. Black people's poverty rate should be closer to around 10, between 8 and 10%. Asian, they're between 8 and 10%. We should be between 8 and 10%. Now, if we were repaired, we had reparations, I think some people probably would not be able to handle whatever and end up in poverty. But it should be within an acceptable range of poor people in each of the races. And
But
17% compared to them at 8.1 is unacceptable to me. And a lot of that is because they have put their foot on our necks and kept us down, which means a lot of us are out there on the streets and we can't seem to
but,
make it.
but
But
what I,
we should be able to.
but what I'm saying is, even us, but whites, American as a whole, under the Democrat Party, homeless rose a significant amount under Biden. I just can't remember. I was supposed to write down that data, and I'm saying, what is the Democratic Party doing? Nothing. What have they done?
I can't answer you. Other than try to get us back as a country in terms of some of the larger metrics of functioning country. They can, and sort of
Even
at the macro level, They
Give me,
couldn't
give me,
actually take care of each of
give,
the,
give me an example. Give me one or two examples. Get us
uh,
back to get us back to what that we ain't at right now.
well, inflation was really high, and bringing it
But
down.
wasn't what
I'm just
wasn't
talking about
but
the
wasn't
big.
but, but wasn't inflation high under the Democratic Party?
Well, I'm saying under the Democrats, under Biden, inflation was extremely high, and they brought it down to around 3%
Who did? Who brought it down?
The Democrats did.
No, they
Under
didn't.
the Democrats, it was
Mm-mm.
it was brought down to around 2 or 3%. Hold on, let me just
No, it wasn't.
um,
Because that's what he won. I know. Everything was too high.
give me a second. Give me a second. Let's see. Highest point inflation peaked at around 9.1% in June of 2022, the fastest rise in about 40 years because of COVID. The decline after the mid 2022 spike, it steadily cooled, falling to about 3.1% by June of 2023 and hovering between 2.9% and 3.2 through late 2024. We ended the term headline inflation roughly 2.9 with core inflation. Yeah, so it was at a high of around 9.1% and a low of about 2.9. It's around that way, that around there at this point, around that right now.
So
2.9 December of 2024.
how come the people didn't feel it?
Because at a macro level, at a macro level, the numbers can say one thing, but individuals, it's a whole different story, and it was. And I heard, you said it enough that, I'm seeing people this, people that. It's like, yeah, people are hurting, because during COVID, a lot of people lost jobs and whatever
Yeah,
else.
but
So
that was four
yes,
years ago. That was 4 years ago. I don't want to hear any more about COVID.
well, you're going to have to talk about COVID because the reason we had inflation was because of COVID. The
Okay.
reason inflation went up was COVID. So we had to figure out how to get that down and get people back to work. All of
Did we,
that played into coming up with, the Treasury Department, making sure the interest rate, all of these things had to play into bringing it down. So they're doing the macro, realizing that there were people who were still did not have jobs, and people and the wage rates were not moving up high enough. All of these things happened, and in terms of um, the wealthy people, the whatever you call them, the prices went up and they were not coming down, which was one of the issues that we had to get prices down. But the reason why they didn't come down was merchants figured out, well, I'm paying this. I raised the prices to this amount, and even though inflation's coming down, I'm not bringing those prices down. That was one of the issues. In fact, it was one of Kamala Harris's issues of really getting on these business owners who were still gouging the American people because they didn't bring the prices down. There was
yeah,
a
but
whole lot of things happening there that I think contributed to people not being able to be employed, if you will.
no,
And
they
then
got
you got, wait a minute, one more thing. And then you've got artificial intelligence, and people, if you don't understand anything else, you must understand that folks are going to be losing their cotton picking jobs because we don't need you anymore. And I can tell you this from even going to school, and the fact that I don't necessarily need certain things or people to get things done
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
Just don't.
Mhm.
And the fact that I can order things, I don't even have to go into stores. So stores are going to be closing down. They're already doing that because you don't have to, the way we lived before and people, and it was very people intensive, it is going to be less and less and less. And COVID brought us this new system of I can stay at home and I can still get everything that I need. I don't have to go anywhere. Well, that means people are not going to be needed at some point. Office buildings are going to have to shut down or get repurposed at some point. Schools are going to have to close down because kids are doing other options for even going to class. I'm telling you, I hear what you're saying, but you
I
can't
have
say, well, Biden didn't, whatever. And what about these people? Well, there's a whole lot of things that factors into why the unemployment rate, which under him was lower, is going to continue to rise.
no people just stopped looking for jobs. I believe you got under Biden where people are working. I know people personally who's
I
working
agree with you. I
two
agree.
and three jobs, 2 and 3 jobs just to make it.
And
And
then there are people who just hung out their own shingle and they're doing their own thing.
yes,
Entrepreneurs,
right.
that rose, that
And,
rose.
and people just said they threw up their hands and they had to do it. But the truth of the matter is, all of this stuff, under no matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat, that they won't make them pay the proper tax. Biden was supposed to um, cut the tax lien for the rich, start taxing them like they should, demand that they didn't, because during COVID, it was no reason that products had to go up 2 and 3 times. They did it because the people who fund them said, this is what we're going to do, and you're not going to do anything about it. And they didn't do anything about it. They didn't care about the American people because some of the people was going to be able to survive, and you're going to be able to survive. Okay, that is what happened because you got other countries,
I know,
Russia,
but
China, all these
I'm
people.
like, okay, that's what happened. Folks
They
who
bounce
make
back really quick.
products, folks who made the products shot it up because you know why? Demand. They weren't. We didn't make products for about 6 months in 2020. Nobody was working, which meant there was going to be. We were using and buying up the products, but nothing was replacing it. Nothing was coming in on ships. All of that except the
But
bare
but
necessities, right?
but
So
but
if there
even when
weren't
they did,
enough of the gadget, if there wasn't enough gadgets, the price is gonna go up.
but
We get that. We get
even
that.
when
But the
we
prices
even when
didn't go down,
but
huh?
even right, even when they did start getting back on level and leveling off, those prices never came down.
Yeah, whose fault is that?
The president, the president,
Why? Why?
because he's in charge.
Oh my God. President, you just told me is not in charge. It's the people around him that's in charge. Which one is it?
It's both because the people in charge, he takes their money, so he has to be their bitch. But if he could say no, it's not working for the American
I don't
people.
think any president has been in charge of what wages, of what the market pretty much dictates that. And when COVID said, you know what, there's not enough products, so you can raise your prices, that's what they did. Yep, that's what they did. They just didn't bring them back down, which was a major campaign issue under the Kamala Harris. She pretty much said and described, here is why your prices are not going down. And when I, as
She know
president,
why
this
they're
is
not
what,
going down, and she wasn't going to force them to bring them down
that's correct.
because those
That,
people gave her $1 billion to run, and she didn't and couldn't even win. She had $1 billion. So where do you think she got
you
the
know what
money?
I think? So,
Where do you
so
think
let
she
me,
got the
I'm
money
going to
from?
segue to something else real quick. So, I just read something which I decided, I said, ChatGPT, is this true? And he said, and it said, well, there's a lot of things that are unverifiable. But in Rockland, New York, you probably heard about this. in Rockland, New York. They had an election like anybody else, and Christian Gillibrand, I think, got 92% of the vote in a Democratic district, if you will. Kamala Harris on the same ticket only got 2 votes.
Well, I told you election night that I didn't believe it. Something happened there. They stole
All
the
right,
election.
so I
Nobody
hear
wanted to
you.
talk
I
about
hear
it.
you
Nobody
screaming.
wanted to talk about that. And the Democrat being as weak as they were, gonna allow it to go
Okay.
and
All right,
let it
so
go.
I'm gonna stop yelling at you, but you
Said
gotta
that
stop
on election night.
because I hear
I
you.
believe that.
So I'm saying to you, right now, Rockland County is suing, and they're doing another vote recount, and they're going to look at it. But
Yeah.
I read somewhere today or yesterday where how Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Trump and all of these things that came together from
Sure.
an electronic standpoint to backdoor into the election systems, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to say it because
Now I
it's
said it.
not necessarily proven. But to your point of she couldn't even win the race, I believe she did personally. But
But
I believe because there's
but
no
she
way a
but
man,
she
wait, just let
but
me
she's
finish this.
weak.
Let me finish this.
She's
I
weak
could.
and the
No,
party
no,
is
no.
weak and they wouldn't fight
Let me
for
just
it.
say this. Let me say this. I'm not disagreeing with the whole weak statement that you keep making. But let me say this. There is no way that a man in the final weeks of his campaign can cuss people out it on in campaign rallies, can call people names, can do all sorts of really stupid things and still win every single swing state. And it is very unusual that any party gets a trifecta, right? This party with everything wrong. You're talking about a Republican House that screwed up the entire time they were in power. They never got anything passed. There is absolutely no way except that there were masterminds behind, and he is he surrounded himself right after that shooting. He surrounded himself with the tech giants who have who are who have Starlink and Palantir and a few other um, um, innovative, extremely state of the art systems that allowed them to manipulate data in a very fast way
Sure.
without detection.
Sure.
And he gets into the White House, Trump. He puts not Trump, Elon in a position to have access to everybody's data in the country. You cannot tell me that Kamala Harris did not win that race.
And when Doge went in to those sites, they probably don't swiped all that data clean, fixed it up really nice. But here's what I say,
Yeah, but they
because
didn't have to because the system, the cores that they use, the back end, allows you to manipulate the data with no trace. So that's already been established.
so,
So they're
so
having to
that was happening in real time.
right.
Um,
It was
okay, but here's what I'm saying: if that was reversed, do you think the Republican Party would allow any of this stuff to go on without a fight? These people ain't open their mouth about nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, that's true. I
And
think that
and I also said Elon Musk, you have to pull it back up. And Donald Trump isn't going to last 3 months together. Well, they last what, 6 months? I said that is not gonna. They're not going to be able to. And I remember when we start looking at the
Elon got
data,
what he wanted.
and
Elon
I
got
said it is no way Trump could have won in all those swing states. It's just no way.
That's correct.
because
I agree
pe-
there. There's
people
no way.
understood what was at stake.
There's no
Um, even me, because I hadn't voted in the Democratic for the president in the
right,
last two elections, but I did on this particular one.
right.
And that's why I really didn't feel bad either. It's like, yeah, it's no way they cheated,
Yeah,
but you
that's
know
right. They
they
did.
they okay with it.
They did. But here's the deal. No, they didn't go out with a public outcry like the Republicans did. And you know what? I agree with that. And I was a little concerned, but there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes. And they are doing a very thorough job of connecting all the dots. Um,
Just like they was doing a very thorough job um, bringing charges against Trump. If they would have did that immediately, we wouldn't even have a Trump.
yeah, that's true.
So by the time they figure this all out, it'll be time for the next election.
So back to our earlier point, um, I think that we have overstayed our welcome in the Democratic Party, and it is time
Yes,
for us to leave.
yes.
I think that Black people have a way of functioning and thinking when the white man's foot is off our necks. Now, when the white man's foot is on our necks, we can't breathe and we can't do very much.
Hmm.
But when it is off, and sometimes we don't even know it's on, we just function and just do the best we can. But we
Yeah,
don't have to do the best we can. We can do very well, but we have to become Black independents. And that means we're in the independent party where there are other people as well, but we're there in such a massive number that we are actually becoming the party itself.
yes,
Black Twitter,
yes,
Black Independent.
yes,
And then people are listening to you now because you are not speaking for the Democrats. And I even said, went as so far as to say, you don't even have to have a presidential candidate at the beginning, maybe the first presidential election. You're not even worried about the presidential candidate, but you're worried about filling the local and the state seats. That is your function. You
yes,
are getting your candidates and you're putting them everywhere.
yes.
And you're saying to the Democrats, we can vote with you on the candidate that you choose, but here's what we expect.
Hmm.
You're not trying to put a candidate out there yet, but you are putting your people everywhere. So they're beholding to you, not to, and then you're making your own deals with your targets and whatever else to say, we're not going to shop at your store, but
Yeah,
here's what we need.
yeah,
So even though you know you've got people who typically don't give any more than $25 here and there, if that, you now know you because you're 1.8 trillion dollar, nine whatever trillion dollar spending power. Now you got to go out and talk to the corporations where we spend our dollars. And now you got to say, and here are the candidates, here's what we need to run our candidates. To me, it is obvious. It is obvious.
I don't understand why it's not to our politicians, to
They're not our politicians. You said that.
well,
They're
true.
not
To
ours.
our stakeholders, yeah. Well, yeah, you're correct because they just think we're gonna do as they say do,
Right. They're not
and
our
we
politicians, and we
and
just
we
need
have
to understand that.
and we have to be able to show them. And I would really like it to start here in Tampa. Here in Tampa,
I,
we got we
girl,
we have an
we,
election coming up in the next few weeks. Our city councilwoman, we send our condolence to her and her family on her her passing. That
yeah,
seat is coming available. We got um citywide, countywide election coming up in 2027. So we got to be on our game. We got to be able to. and making sure we put people in office that the Democratic Party don't pick.
I think you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. In fact, I went up and chat GPT. The number of Republicans in Hillsborough County, 287 thousand. The number of Democrats is 270,000. But the other no party affiliation is 238,000. Let's say that we were like 90,000. Let's say we were that 90,000. You
Mhm.
add that to the 238,000 and we influence the independent voter who's kind of not sure about anything anyway, so there might be some people you can influence. You are well over the Democrat. You've taken the Democrats way down, but you are well over the Republicans as well.
Sure, sure.
And that's how you move. And that's why the Democrats now have to look to you
Yes,
for help. And
yes,
you say, we're not doing that.
right.
We could put the next mayor in place, no questions asked.
No question asked.
So you're right.
Yes,
I wish we
I,
could do it here as well, because
I've
that's
been
what
saying
the
that.
example has to be, huh?
I know I've been saying that since 2016. I changed my party, but now here's what you have to think about with the independent. If you want to vote in the primary, you have to switch that party. You have to
We don't
become.
want to vote in the primary.
You don't want to vote in the primary.
You don't want to vote for the Democratic Party person.
You don't
So
have to
here,
vote for
here,
the You don't have
huh?
to vote for the Democrat. You can vote. You can register as a Republican. But if you got a primary and you got three people running, and you want a particular person to guarantee that they're able to be in the general, they would need you to vote.
How does the NPA get people on
They
tickets?
only vote in the general. So if you want to
How
run
does
as
an
a,
independent? How does an independent
so if you run as an
get people on? How do they get them on the ballot? That's what I'm asking.
so if they run as an independent, they don't have a primary. They just get on the ballot for November.
Do they get on the ballot as individuals, or do they get on the ballot as
Yes, as
let's say
individuals.
we're a group of people and we say, you know what, we're going to run Mona, and Mona's going to be our person, and maybe we do our own little primary, and Mona's our person for whatever.
So if it's just me running as an independent, I don't have to run in August. Usually the runoff is in August, right? So you might have three Republicans, four Democrats. Well,
Yeah,
the top two of those people get to run in the general, right?
right. Of
Yes,
each party, right?
yes.
Yes.
Well, no. So the top
So
two,
let's say you're running for mayor. You're running for mayor as an independent with the Black Independent Party. I'm going to just
mm,
call it the Black Independent wing of the Independent Party. How do you get to run for mayor? How do we get you on a ballot?
you either have to get, I either have to pay the application fee.
So
I'm not
that
quite,
we, as a Black Independent Party, pays your application fee.
yes.
Okay.
Or I could get petitions. You know how we go
So
out and get,
we as a Black Independent
yes,
Party get
we,
petitions.
or we can get petitions. Yes.
All right.
So that means, so that's the only way it can be done. So
And that's
you
for the general.
you'll just meet up in November
All
because in
right. That's for the
Canvas,
general. And I
I,
think I think that's what we have to do. I think that's what we're gonna. That's what we do. That is what we do. We don't worry about the primary stuff because
mhm,
that's almost a waste of time. But don't worry about the primary stuff.
mhm.
Um, get your independent party just strong enough to compete against um, whoever's running for Democrat or whatever. But let's say there's a Democrat that you like and that's going to support you. then you can say that. But if it isn't, you then are running against them in the general, the independent party, and you've got the votes.
Right. If it's a
'Cause
if,
you,
if it's a
yeah,
Democrat, if it's a Democrat that you want to see elected, you have to now switch your party to Democrat. It's very easy to do. I do
no,
it.
no, you don't. So I'm not talking about the primary. You forego the primary altogether. You just don't do the primary.
Okay.
You just focus on the general, and you're watching the Democrats, and you're saying to the Democrats, you find a Democrat that we can support because they're going to do these things for us. If you do not, we are going to run against you in the general. And if we have, let's see, we have right now it's 238. You add another 90,000, you're like 300 and something thousand compared to the Republicans at 287. And then the Democrats drop down to 190 something. It's just a no brainer. You got the numbers.
But no, not really. Because listen, you might have the numbers, but check this out. So that's in August, right? That's usually in August. The primary is in August. So you now have what? August, September, October, November. About 3 months to get your independent ready. You get your independent, either you need money ready for them to get on the ballot in November, or you're going to have uh, go out and get petitions. So let's say if they're running for county commission, I think you need about 2,500 petitions. And it ain't as easy as one thing. I've done so many petitions.
I agree with you, but here's what I'm saying is you run when they are running the primary, you're not running the primary, you're already running the general. You have started running the general. You have identified the people that you're going to support. You have gone to because you've now got this great big mass of people, and you have decided, you know what, I'm going to bank on that whole Target thing and whatever else, and I'm going to go talk to Target to say we're about to go into election cycles, and here's one of the things we're going to need you to do. We're going to run these particular candidates. You start finding the money because yes, your independents can give, but they're not going to give you nearly enough. You start doing your petitions for the people that you know will challenge whoever it is that needs to be challenged a year from now, let's say, whatever that number is, 8 months, 12 months from now. You do that early. You don't wait until you see what they're going to do. They need to see you actually moving against them so that so that it becomes credible immediately so that they have to then come to you to say what can we do to whatever. Well, let's talk. You sit around the table and let's
But
talk.
at that point, we can't talk because we already got a Democrat that's going to run in that. I mean, we already have an independent that's going to run in that seat.
That may run in that seat. You
What do
right
you
now
mean,
you have
May? What do you mean, May? By August, we will have to know who's going to run in that seat.
they will have the vote and they will choose a candidate. You will already know who your candidate is. That is true because you're doing the petitions, you're doing everything that you need to do. But then they vote and put somebody in, right? And that person is somebody that you cannot tolerate. I hear about the names of people who are putting their hats in. And you decide, I'm sorry, that's not going to work for us. And you continue moving and you take your person all the way to the general. It may be, though, that in August you hold off on your candidate because your candidate can't be, and this may be a little pie in the sky that your candidate is somebody who can stop, go.
Yeah, I was
Because
going to say, which candidate want to do that? Which candidate
yeah, I
has
agree with you. I
has the
agree with
desire
you.
to run and to say, now hold on, you might not run in this election. We got to see what they're going to do. They're going to be, hell no. I want to run. I want to be your front person. So then
Well, either way,
at
either
at,
way,
at that
Mona,
point, we could not. But
either way, if we have a strong enough candidate,
those things could be
I'm
figured out.
gonna change up. I'm gonna change up and go with you because you're right. You can't expect somebody who has those high aspirations to just say, okay, never mind.
It
So
might be maybe or maybe not. But
yeah,
those
but you just go ahead and put your candidate in there, and because you have 310,000 registered voters compared to 270 and maybe 190,000, you are in a good place if
sure,
you can get your people out to vote.
sure,
That will be the key.
sure,
You are in a very good place,
sure.
and it forces the Democrats to come and play in your pond instead of you playing in their pond.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think I think that if we can do that, back to your point, if we can do that locally and it actually works, especially with the mayor's seat,
Yeah,
commissioner's seat,
yeah,
city council,
yeah.
oh my God, it just
If we
changes.
could just start convincing the people we know to switch from Democrat to independent. I've
I,
already
my
started.
whole family is going to make the switch.
I've already started as well, right? So
Yeah,
like my contact, I said, listen, and we should set a date that we want to do this, that we
yeah,
could have real impact where the supervisor of elections say, wow, a
yeah,
thousand people today changed um their party from
yeah.
Democrat to independent.
I'm
Because
going to make a shirt, black
that
independent. It's totally. I'm making a T-shirt,
that'll
black.
get you to start thinking. That'll
Yeah.
get the Democratic Party to say, we have a problem. So let's pick a date to say we want to do this.
Let's pick a date. We say we want to do what exactly?
Get a group of people to have an impact to all change from Democrat to independent on the same day.
Yeah. So for me to do that the other day, I had to fill it out online, go to the
Yeah, you
site.
can do it. You can do it online. It takes 2 minutes. I
No,
if
no,
I
no, no, no. That's changed. DeSantis.
when
That. I don't know. I went online and I thought I could just do it, but you can get the PDF online. You can fill it out online. Then you have to print it. Then you have to sign it. Then you either put it in the mail or you go down to one of the locations, the Falkenberg, one of the office, the supervisor of elections, and a couple of other places, and you have to take it. I do remember before, all I had to do was do it online and bang, it was done. But
because
it's
I
now
used
you
to
have,
switch back and forwards all the time so I could vote in the primaries, and then I just switch it back once
yeah,
I did the vote. And then
yeah,
if you look up check your vote, I could check your vote. And you'll see one time where I didn't vote. From the time I start voting, I've voted in every election but one. And
yeah,
that's when I start switching with the independent. And I didn't do it in time enough to vote. So I
right.
couldn't vote. But wow, I didn't know that. That's going to be a problem.
It is a problem because it took me, once I did it, it took me a couple of days because I don't really have any envelopes. I just have like these odd shapes, but not the kind. And I was like, I don't even have an envelope. Who has a stamp? I just happen to have stamps
I
here.
have stamps and envelopes because I still
Yeah.
like writing letters.
It's like, oh my God, I don't even. So it is a problem, but the Republicans knew it was going to be a problem. So we have to say to
And
folks,
this is what I'm saying. Why did the Democrats even allow? Why couldn't they put something in place for all this? Because they've always seen, even now, we still say we don't have voters' rights. I'm like, what the hell? All after Obama, Clinton, and Biden, y'all ain't do something to correct that. But they like to use this stuff to keep us to say, especially Angela Birdsong. Oh my God, that
oh,
woman gets. I love her, but
we're not going to talk about Miss Birdsong
But
on
she,
this.
I love her. I love her, but she gets on my nerves when it comes. It gets on my nerves when she talk about the
She can
Democratic
be a
Party.
little frustrating with her commitment to the Democratic Party. She's very, very committed. I've never seen any black woman as committed as she.
Is she? I keep forgetting to ask her. Is she a FBA?
No,
That's the problem. She's not a fighter.
I know she's not an FBA. She's of Jamaican descent.
And so wherever country she came from, they just honored to be here. So they just love the white Democrats.
I
And
recognize that. I recognize that when I'm speaking with her, and then I'm thinking, we are coming from a completely different
yes,
perspective. And I don't
our
really
lineage,
expect that you
our
understand.
lineage, our lineage is so different, and it
Right.
is a different. And and and
Very
and
much.
some and some understand that, but most do not.
That's
And,
correct.
and I can forgive her for that, but
Yeah,
I'm like, don't get in the way of our fight.
exactly. Exactly.
Because
So,
you're
yeah,
here because of our fight.
yeah,
You, you're here because of
because
our
you're here because of our fight.
yes.
And to your point, you didn't stay at home and do your own fighting where you are. So
Because
we are gearing up to fight. I need you not to get in the way.
I just need
Because
you to be
this
quiet.
is what we do. This is
Yes.
what we do.
Because
Exactly.
who would leave their home country if you loved it so much? Who would
Well,
leave?
America was dangling these shiny objects of how wonderful we are, and we got democracy and all that other stuff. And then people come here and it's like, oh, it's not as wonderful as it seems to be. Well, it's even worse than you thought. But the
Well,
fact is,
they get to live well. They get to get a decent wage. So they get to live
comparatively, yes, comparatively.
compared to their country. So they get to live, and I think that might be something that they could go along with.
Yeah.
But so here's what we might need to do.
Wait, let me just make this point with what you just said, and it takes it back to what you said earlier. Even though individually we might be comfortable and we might be comfortable under either administration, not understanding what's going to go down with Trump, but we have been comfortable regardless of who is in. Um, that is not the way that people that are coming from Black immigrants come in with that mentality. We do it for us all as a group. We
Sure,
move forward and we fight for each other as a group.
sure.
They are much more individual
Oh, absolutely.
and they don't see it as this is for all of us. And we do it to almost to a fault because we
Yeah.
don't just include ourselves as Black folks, which is where we need to stop at this point. We
Mhm.
include everybody. Everybody's going to, be okay. But right
Yeah.
now it is, as you said, it stated when we started, this fight right here is going to be for Black folks.
It also reminds me, when the police kill us or somebody kill us, or that Dalen Ruth, or remember everybody because it was in church. We're gonna have to forgive him. Are y'all freaking kidding me?
I know, right?
Why in the hell am I gonna forgive this man who he said he didn't ask for your forgiveness? He intended to do. And that was before they knew, but you know the devil.
That's
You
what
know
we do.
you know the devil, children. You know the devil.
But we
Jesus
do.
Christ. But we
But
do.
we do because the Bible says so.
Because they white Bible have taught them that.
I
They
said that.
white Bible.
I said that
So
for you, but you know what? If you got any last words, let's do that.
if we want to maybe help people change, why don't we print the applications out, get the envelopes, put the stamps on it, make it very convenient for people when we see them, and say, "Hey, fill this out right now." We turn it in.
Good plan.
We'll find money for people to give us stamps, and but print out these, because even the people that I know that will generally, you know, do it, if they
That's
don't have stamps. Now I buy a book of stamps all the time, so I'm always. But if you got to go to the post office to get the stamps, they're not going to do that,
they're not going to do it.
and they
So I
might
think
do
that's
it, but
a
it
good
might
plan.
take them longer than what we need them to do. but
Yeah.
that could be
So we're
something.
gonna do a campaign of transferring people from Dems to independent, Black independent. We'll call it Black independent. I'm gonna make a T-shirt with the T-shirt company that I work with,
Okay.
and I'll send you the link if you want to order it. You can
Yeah.
certainly order it, but it'll say Black independent.
Well, we definitely got to push it out. We need to be getting some products for what is the ask. Change your
Yeah.
thing.
Actually, I do have T-shirts on that site that says what is the ask. I just never sent you guys the link because I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
All
No.
right, I got to get this one out because Kiva said I want to watch it. It's like okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that. But
Yes.
okay, good conversation. Thank you so much. I enjoyed
Absolutely. Always.
absolutely enjoyed them. All right, let's see. How do I cut this off? It's going to be on here, StreamYard and recording.